Surely was a man of substance. He had a bunch of animal claws, junk, saw, and the servants got to look. Well, while they're looking for it, they, uh, they searched for days now. Then someone said that they need to go to Samuel and could tell him what God is. Samuel was always receiving messages. So there became some friction because Saul, time passed. Saul tells, tells us Saul is there to look upon. So I think that everybody at some point you stop. And that's when people come, oh yeah, I know I'm fine. It's vanity. Anything that happens that would be able, David, do you need me to talking to the mic? Okay. Can you call on Ross and on Cynthia? Okay. Okay. I hope that works. So there was some jealousy and tension. Good morning, sweet. There was some jealousy and some friction that developed between David and Saul. You know, when sometimes you just get it in your head that somebody's out to get you, because David never done anything. So he flees away from Saul, and he's talking with Saul's son Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan and uh, David. David and mine just walked in. How I lose that name? So they're best friends. Saul, in his jealousy and his anger, is pursuing David to kill him. So David asked Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my my crime? Why is your father trying to kill me?" So Jonathan said, "He says, never. You're not going to die. My father doesn't do anything, great or small, without letting me know. Why would he hide something this important from me?" So David took an oath and said, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes." So he's jealous of that relationship. And he says to himself, Jonathan must not know this or he would be really grieved. And he says, surely, here's the promise. Excuse me. Surely as the Lord lives and as you live, there is only one step between me and death. That's David's feeling, and he was correct. So he says, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. So David suggests that he go to the banquet and find out, because the king had called for a banquet. And if he says, he asks about me, and you say he's doing well, he's safe, good. But if he loses his temper, and Saul was a man that was hot tempered, and that's a dangerous thing. when serious anger comes up in your heart, there are things that you would do that you would not otherwise do, and be okay with it. I keep telling my husband I'm ready for a gun. I had one at one point, but I lost it in a after hours club. When the police raided. Anyway, and he said, at some point you gotta just trust God. But anyway, he says, if you want to give me comfort and you have confidence in me, Jonathan says, I will never turn you over to my father. And that's the loyalty that they had, the friendship. With friendship ought to be loyalty. And I'm the kind of person that when you do something that makes me not trust you anymore, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to mend that. When a person proves themselves over and over and over to be untrustworthy, believe them. Some people just can't open their mouths without lying. Don't go with that. So the promise is made because David and I don't know what's going on, David. Between David and Jonathan. So they have this locked agreement. One will never betray the other. They will be friends forever. And so that takes us, now we've got to jump over to 2 Samuel. And they've been to war. Remember, Saul was killed during the war. And now there's the transition. David is now king. And so he asked, is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Because he loved Jonathan, because that love was so strong, it's like I used to say, like at the convention, especially when my husband moderated. And I would say, if you don't like my husband, then I don't like you. I don't wait around for somebody to do something to me. Just let me know you don't like him and I don't like you. So that's the kind of loyalty that's between them. But at this point in our lesson, David is a man of integrity, a man of compassion. And what do I have written in my book? Mm-hmm. David is a man of honor and integrity. And so was Jonathan. So that's, birds of a feather flock together. But David is concerned. By this time, Jonathan's dead. His daddy is dead. So David is asking, is there anybody left in the family? Anybody that I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? A lot of times we'll do things for people for somebody else's sake because we want to honor those that we want to make promises to. So there was a servant in Saul's household. There had been, named Ziba, and he was summoned to appear before David. And David, as king, says, is there none still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness? Which is to say, when you love, we should love deeply, we should love generously, we must love enough to share. So he's asking this question, and the servant answers him, and he said, there is still a son of Jonathan's. He's lame in both feet. Now, what had happened, this boy that of Jonathan, David was wanting to hide him. His nursemaid wanted to hire him. So she grabs him up and she runs and she stumbles and falls, and the boy is injured. So here he's saying that this boy is lame. And he goes on and he shares with them what house he came from. When they say the house of Makar or the house of David, they're talking about your whole household. So David asked him to bring the boy, because David wanted to do, because it was Jonathan's family. It didn't matter to him so much how Saul had treated him. He loved his son. There are people that we can love dearly and care nothing for their relatives. Anybody here have a situation like that? You love someone, a relative or a friend, but you don't like the family? Was that an idea? Oh, okay, okay. Anyway, so David had this boy brought from Lodabar, from the house of Makar, the son of Amiel. So when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, who was the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. And David says to him, David said, calls him by his name, I got it in my head. It just keeps. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Anyway, he says Mephibosheth, and he answers him and says, at your service. So whenever the king summons someone, when you show up, you say, at your service. Anybody that outranks you, if you're in the military and you're a sergeant and the captain sends for you, you ask him, sir, what is it? Because rank has its privilege. And along with that comes responsibility. Now, David has been elevated as king of Israel. God has made a promise to him that his seed will sit on the throne. So he tells this guy, don't be afraid. I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father John. I will restore you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table. What he's saying is, I'm going to give you everything that you are entitled to. Doesn't matter how your grandfather chased me all over the country, through several countries, as a matter of fact, or cities or whatever. None of that matters. And that's an important thing. We don't have, You know, it doesn't have to be, I don't like you or you've done me wrong. And for that reason, I hate your son and your grandchild. That should not be. Each person should be judged on their own merit. And this shows David's genuine love. This is a continuation of David's love for Jonathan. Just because somebody you love dies doesn't mean you stop loving them. You will love them right up to the point of your own death. There are situations where maybe the grandparent passes away, never met the grandchildren, but then the parents will teach the children, this is your grandmother, this is your grandfather. And we'll show pictures. We wanna tie that family thing together. And because I loved your grandmother, or because I loved his son or her son, whoever belongs to you, you love them. It doesn't matter if you just met them, been years, 30, 40 years since you've seen them. The fact that you know that they are family, you continue to love them. And that's how David feels, because he's a man of integrity. He is a man of worthy of respect, worthy of honor. And he has to be treated that way. That's why everybody that comes to see him starts bowing and pleading. King, you know, and it's kind of like, but not much to a lesser form. When you're called and they say the boss wants to see you in his office, you start one, oh Lord, what does he want? What have I done? And so Melchizedek, he bows down and he says, what is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me? Now that he going in deep to show that he's not a proud man. You the king, and yet you call for me. I'm as good as a dead dog. There's nothing that I could possibly do for you. If there's a person that is a millionaire and maybe some kid is selling Girl Scout cookies or whatever, because he's rich, he'll buy up a bunch of them and just give them away. That's what you do. That's why rich people have all these charities that they support. But this man is humble enough to say, who am I that you should notice a dead dog like me? And we can ask ourselves, because we know how bad we've been. We know how we are now. There's some stuff I don't even want to tell myself. So, what's the word I'm looking for? Humility. God respects humility. And we're warned not to be proud or haughty. I used to say all the time when it was time to take up offering, you could tell when the deacons come up and they start buttoning it up, shoulders go back. I'm saying, oh Lord, here comes. And that's pride. It doesn't take long. People keep telling you how good you are and how wonderful. You have to be careful not to get proud and become haughty. But the king summoned Saul's steward, his servant. And he says to him, I've given your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and your servants are to farm the land for him. Bring in the crops so that your master's grandson may be provided for. Now, that is integrity. There are people that are so selfish. They got money's mammy, and they will not share. They are so cheap and stingy and careless. It's like I was listening to something about Walmart, and that family is the richest. The family, not an individual. The family is the richest in the world, and they still don't want to give their employees raises. They're called a living wage. Some people are still having to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make it. And so whenever we have an opportunity to be generous and to help somebody, that is what we should do. And we have this example right here. Now, this servant, excuse me, this servant, Ziba, had 15 sons and 20 servants. But now David's saying, all this I'm going to do. You servants farm the land, do all the work, but you'll be blessed. So Ziba says to David, your servant will do my Lord, the king commands his servants to do. When at the top they tell you to do something, it doesn't matter how you feel. It's like as parents, and we say, we tell our children to do something, and they say, why? Oh, what you mean, why? And so we understand the relationship between one in authority and one that's lower on the pole. And so I was thinking going through this lesson how my youngest grandbaby is. She was at the house and she said she wanted some chips. Now, I admit I've spoiled the child. And I said, well, baby, we don't have any chips. She said, well, then you need to go to the store and buy some. You're 3 years old. You couldn't even ride a tricycle. How you going to tell me to get in my car and go buy some potato chips? So I told her, first of all, little girl, watch your tone and watch what you say to me. Because I'm top dog. You don't know that at 3, but you're going to learn. I am top dog. So when I say something, I don't want the mouth. I don't want any attitude. Just, my sons will tell you. I'm always telling them, if you said or did something to harm someone, I'd make you stand against the wall with your nose touching it and say over and over, I will not misbehave. I will not misbehave. And I would just watch them squirming from one leg to the next. I don't care. I'm sitting down counting. And so you respect who's in authority. So he's saying, all of y'all, as servants of Saul's grandson, the boy himself, he's going to eat at the king's table every day because I want people to recognize and know that I honor him. Sometimes you meet people and you don't know nothing about their parents, but they tell you about them. And so your attitude changes. If someone walks in here today and I say, oh, Brother Philando, ain't that the uncle you haven't seen in 20 years? Oh, you want to show them to the best seat. You want to share food with them, whatever. And that's because we don't just cut off love because of an offense. Now, David had every right to say, I don't want nothing that belonged to Saul. And because I loved his son, in honor of his son, because of my love for Jonathan, I'm going to honor and do as much as I can for that person. We have family members. A new baby can come into the family, and the aunts and the uncles and the grandparents, especially grandmother, oil them, just shower them with stuff, the whole nine, because they've been introduced in the family. So when David makes this decision, he's saying not only will Saul's son sit at the table, but you as the boys' caretakers, you'll sit here. That's a big table. And so our last scripture says, and Melchizedek lived in Jerusalem because he always ate at the king's table, even though he was lame in both feet. Now that's the grandson. And if you have family members that have special needs, we might go overboard to make them feel comfortable and not threatened. If someone kills your child and has no remorse, you not typically, not only you're not going to care for the killer, but anybody in his family. When people go to court, the family of the convicted person sits on this side, and the family of the victim sits on that side, and everybody stays together. And then they got that middle aisle that separates everybody, just like we have here. And so whoever's in the family, they let you know. And you know just by where they're sitting, who they are. So if you don't even know, if you never knew Saul, you never met Jonathan, you just know that this is King Saul's grandchild. And that's all the information you need. Come in and sit at the high table, you and all your servants. Come and sit at the big table. And that was a tremendous honor. Now, if we were to get a call and someone of great significance is summoned to the White House for something, you're gonna go. You are going to be there. So this lesson is all about loyalty. Brother Philando, let me have my book back so I can see what I wrote down. This is about honor and integrity. This is about justice, because David did what he promised Jonathan he would do. He gave them what they got. He honored them, and that was out of his kindness. As Christians, we got to learn to be just in our decisions. We have to be kind to people and recognize their needs. We got one job: honor God with our lives. And if we fail to do that, we have failed God. Okay, any questions or comments before we close out the lesson? Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yes. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And that's important to understand that. Yes. Right. Hmm? Right. I know that's right. 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 Hmm. Right. Right. Hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. Right. Yes, it is. Right. Right. Hmm. That's right. Right. Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And we have strayed so far from where we should have been as a race of people. I don't know if my neighbor have dinner or not. I really don't, or anybody for that matter. And let me just say this: I have no idea where Bishop got this idea from. But remember when he said, "Just call me uh, Leonard"? Who you thinking is gonna call you Leonard? You see, I had to think a couple of times to remember his first name because he always Bishop to me. We should honor people for who they are, what they do. And then if it's challenged, I say, well, Bishop, I don't disobey my pastor, but look, I won't. Mm-mm. Tell me something else to do. Yes. Right. Mhm. Right. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, in his mind, that was humility. That just said it. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. That's right. And he was saying, I got it. He was saying, just keep me on a lower level. I don't want you looking up to me like that. I just want. I don't think of myself as, you know. I don't think. But I still don't. I thought it was a bad idea. And I said, who do you think gonna do that? It didn't take but a couple of weeks when nobody called him Leonard. And it's like, oh, well, I thought it was a good idea at the time. Okay, so will you? I know, I know. Uh, would you close us out in prayer? Mhm.